Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. It's August 13th, 2024. It's Tuesday. Hope everything's going well with your trades yesterday and between today. So let's start first off with markets. The MMRI, our favored risk indicator, is at 251.5 right now. So still hovering on the lower end and dropping basically. We're in high territory of risk. But the main elements, of course, the 10-year yield as well as the relative strength of the US dollar, basically increasing. So this is putting a bit of pressure on stocks. Yesterday, they fell a little bit more towards the close. Looking at the fear greed indicator, still in extreme fear territory, but we're not watching as many people just step right back in and buying, as we spoke about yesterday. Kind of a dead cat bounce on the beginning, and then the markets pulled back. So that was the probability, and it did play out. So market sentiment today, they're looking at PPI numbers come out today, and the CPI, which is the core inflation, the favored index that the Federal Reserve will look at, basically coming out tomorrow. So between the two, they're speculating basically whether there will be continued sell-off or if there could be a relief rally from the CPI mostly tomorrow. So the market right now up this morning a bit, thinking a little bit more relief from the Fed coming in the form of rate cuts. This uncertainty is what is bringing the chop in these markets. So as I've got here, the PPI data is making the market nervous. It comes out prior to market open, about 8:30 a.m. we get those numbers. So stock futures rising, even though they're a bit nervous, mixed. We've got kind of flat in pre-market just opening. We've got the volatility index down a bit, and gold is hovering right around $2,500 per ounce. Now, we've got oil pulling back just a bit. As I said, there was an increase in supply expected. So that would bring the cost down. So looking at that, oil might have a bit going lower. However, the Middle East tensions had brought that price up right to that $80 resistance level, basically. So we've got stock futures coming up at the moment, but we'll see what happens when they open. We're still now have reverted to a downward trend. So with this, we are expecting this morning prior to market open, the PPI numbers, as I said. Now, tomorrow, prior to the market open, the CPI again will be larger. So with this, make sure you're positioned towards the end of the trading day to account for this. So with the earnings coming out today, I'll be looking at Home Depot. It is a good indicator of basically homeowners, if they're willing to continue renovations, putting money into their homes to increase the value or their living spaces. We've also got Hut 8 as cryptocurrency and a few others prior to market tomorrow. These are the ones that we'll be reporting. So with this, I'd like to speak about a few other things. And first off is the money versus currency in general. So I want to bring up, it's called Gresham's law. Okay, so this is, I don't know why they have to give these fancy names, but basically the replacement of valuable coin, token, or dollar by a less valuable dollar, token, or coin when they both have similar face value. So let's just say, for instance, if you have 100 US dollars versus a $100 value of gold coin, admittedly, that would be quite small today as opposed to prior because of inflation. So with this, we've got good money. Basically, we'll call that gold, is money with more intrinsic value, and it gets hoarded as it is considered valuable. So now this is a real asset, basically, like gold, Bitcoin, or other hard asset, basically. So we've got bad money, is money with less intrinsic value. That would be currency. So this gets more circulated in the economy. These are when they can turn on the printing presses for any of this, and that's why it is called bad money, because it's in fluctuation. central banks like the Federal Reserve use these to quote unquote combat things like inflation, which ironically, they create the inflation by manipulating the amount of this circulated in the economy. However, they can manipulate it, and that's why they've got this major split. So I brought this up because we've got a few examples that we can look towards that is going to eventually happen with all currencies. So now, as I've said before, the first major Western currency to become affected by a lot of this inflation and showing the basically the consequences of a zero interest rate policy is the Bank of Japan. So the head of that bank is Ueda, and they are set to explain the July rate hike decision on August 23rd. So I find this very interesting that they make this decision first and then they decide to explain it after once it has the effect in the markets. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this, as I've spoken about before, because this was not a mistake. It was by design, and they have a very different culture. And basically, we can look forward to this is going to happen to all currencies right prior to the hyperinflation mechanism that happens. So we do have other instances. For instance, Venezuela, of course. We've got Lebanon with their currency basically in the trash, Zimbabwe. However, as I said, this is the first major Western currency, and it's also tied in with the US dollar. They hold the largest amount of US debt. So the result of that is when they made their move last Monday, crashed the US markets. They have that much value along with the leverage. So with this, Japan's producer inflation increased for the sixth straight month. So they have to deal with their inflation issues. As I said, this is due to extended zero interest rate policies, or ZIRP as they call it, easy money. And that's basically what other currencies in this currency war are doing. So with this is all by design. And I've got this inside here that seems not related, but it's exactly the direction. Inside JP Morgan Chase's biometric payment journey. So for quote unquote security and safety's sake, they are going to impose biometric payments because regular identification, which should be sufficient, is no longer as they're saying. So there's a big push for this, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So they're saying, the markets are saying there's potential for a nasty shock on Wednesday when the CPI report comes out. So I disagree with that because we've got the elections coming up in November. No matter what the number comes out, it matters what they say and how the market psychologically takes it, because these numbers, we know inflation still increasing. But if they say this is as much as we expected this already and we're prepared for this, it will ease the markets and not have so much of an effect. So I think it will be managed and kind of be a nothing burger, so to speak. Might be a bit of movement, increased volatility. However, I don't think it's going to create a serious shock. So with this, we've got other examples to look forward of what will cause the shock and what will make them change. If we jump over to the UK, they just came out saying that their pay growth is the lowest in 2 years. So more job losses since the C19 crash, and their unemployment numbers are much higher than expected. So they will be looking at unemployment numbers, and once it increases to an amount that they cannot ignore it, that's when they may make the move. They may not cut at all. It's a possibility. So back to America. We have got the real economy is crashing. We've still got the commercial real estate issue. One of America's richest cities sinks in a massive hotel debt. They're speaking about San Francisco, but it's true of many of the major metropolis in the United States, including New York, Los Angeles. So we've got major retail implosions, JCPenney closing its doors, liquid lumber liquidators we spoke about yesterday filing for bankruptcy. So middle low income Americans running out of disposable cash. This is from the San Francisco Fed. And this is what they said they wanted back when they were saying there was a lot of cash, quote unquote, sloshing around, and they wanted to basically mop all this up. Basically, this is what they meant. They wanted Americans running out of disposable cash, so they stopped spending. So moving over back into the digital realm, this is kind of a cool thing. Marathon Digital, they're basically one of the largest, if not the largest, Bitcoin miner companies in the United States. So they're stamping, they're putting in basically a little bit of code into the Bitcoin blocks that they mine saying made in USA. So yes, kind of basically a little bit of a ploy there, but I think it's going to work and maybe push them a little bit as a specific mover. We've got, they're also selling notes to sell more Bitcoin. So basically, like companies do sell their stock to raise capital, and then they're investing back into the Bitcoin. So that means they see the future that it's going to be coming up as well. So biometric update, this is what I really wanted to bring up. They now have brought in what they're calling Trust Exchange to launch by the end of the year. The problem is this. They are using regular open identification. This is not affiliated with Bitcoin. It is also not decentralized. So with this very centralized, government controlled. And surprisingly, with this next one, we've got the United States Senate taking up a bill banning government purchase of Americans' data. Well, that doesn't really matter because if you know what Five Eyes is, basically they're getting the data for free from our partner countries, if you will. This is a big agreement. You can look it up if you want to know what that is. Five Eyes program. Okay, so I want to go more into this ROC. So this company right here, .ai, okay, artificial intelligence, they're talking about facial recognition in schools. Now, they believe, just to read this brief, forward future technologies to make the world safer, smarter, and stronger. Now, they're saying without bias to threats of privacy, but there is. That's why we're trusted by the US military, law enforcement, and world's leading banks. So this is why I brought up JP Morgan Chase, because they're going to be using some of these platforms as well as Palantir Artificial Intelligence with this. Department of Defense agencies, it's government, military, law enforcement, multinational financial institutions, the big banks. And they're claiming 100% made in America. Very happy about that if you want to look up this website. But basically, mission critical military grade solutions include face recognition, fingerprint, iris recognition, weapon and object detection, and intelligent video analytics. So this is the start of what they want to push towards the basically tokenization of everything. They're putting it in schools. So there won't be a choice about it. Australia is already implementing this and they will follow shortly behind. So with all of this, if you don't want to get into something, they will find a way to influence you. We've got the mainstream media as the propaganda tool. And with this, we've got the physical wars still ramping up, and this is by design. So a lot of this stuff about Israel putting the military on high alert, and the United States now sending carrier groups as well as more fighters directly over the sea, as well as direct fighters into Germany and Western Europe. We've got missiles hitting everywhere. We've got threats coming in from Iran. Everybody's deeply concerned about this. Thankfully, Iran has advanced, and they're not such a hot trigger as they used to be. They've got in good relations, so to speak, with Russia. So Russia's kind of keeping them at bay, if you will, in the background. So they have recently threatened Washington and they're talking about being able to hit offshore. So with all of this, gonna leave you a little brighter note. Got a bit of a surprise coming out a little bit later today. I'm blabbing a little bit like a typical girl to get a little bit of news out early, but I think you will like that. We've got some really good things coming down the road, and as soon as this kind of pulls back for the market, as it should, there will be multiple opportunities for us to get in. In the meantime, stacking real assets when you can as the price drops, meaning gold, silver, and if you would, Bitcoin, not cryptocurrency in general, but Bitcoin, if you don't know or not comfortable with what you're doing. So, with this, I wish you all a great trading day, wonderful day in general. And until I see you again, stay free.